Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be doing the unpopular book opinions tag. Thought I'd do it for a little bit of fun. I don't actually think there's anything too crazy here, but I guess we'll see. So the first prompt is a popular book or series that you didn't like. I really did not like the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I read the Six of Crows duology first, and I think that really kind of messed up my expectations of what to expect for the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Shadow and Bone comes first, then Six of Crows, then the alleged Nikolai duology. But I really did not like it. It fell really flat for me, especially when you compare it to Six of Crows. Six of Crows is phenomenal. Up there as a contender for one of my favorite fantasy series. And I really enjoyed it. And Shadow and Bone was just a massive letdown. I really did not like any of the characters, to be perfectly honest. I found them all quite flat and annoying. The main character, Alina, is just like a total drag. I actually recently unhauled it because I really don't like it. A popular book or series that everyone else seems to hate, but you love. So I've noticed this a lot recently, and I don't know whether this has always been the case or whether it's just a recent thing, but A Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger seems to get a lot of hate, and I actually really enjoyed it. I read it in a couple of hours. I quite like the character of Holden Caulfield, don't get me wrong. There's problems with the book. And I don't know if I reread it now, would I still feel the same way? But I really enjoyed it. I really liked the fact that it was set in New York. I love New York. It's my favorite city that I've ever been to. Holden himself, there were parallels of his personality with my own when I was that age, when I was a little bit younger. It's kind of like a coming of age story, and I like a good coming of age story. A love triangle where the MC ended up with the person you didn't want or a couple you didn't like. Pretty much any YA couple. I'm going to be doing a video on this soon about just YA in general and why I just don't think it's for me anymore. But Mal and Alina, I mentioned earlier. Poppy and Castile from the From Blood and Ash series. I just detest their relationship. It's just so annoying. And then I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else. I mean, I also think in Throne of Glass, I didn't like the fact, minor spoiler and I'll tag it, I didn't like the fact that Selena ended up with, what was his name? Rowan? Something like that. I wanted her to end up with Kale. I actually think it would have been a much better story if she'd ended up with Kale, given that he's not Fae. But whatever. I think I'm in the minority who thinks that, for sure. A popular book genre that you hardly reach for. Horror is a genre that I really don't read much of. It's something that I want to start getting into. I do really like watching creepy films. I don't like watching horrors, but I like watching really creepy thrillers. So I'm going to start getting into that. I want to start reading some H.P. Lovecraft as well. I actually recently asked Alan for some recommendations, so he's going to be someone that I check out, even though he's a total problematic human being, a horrible human being by the sounds of it, by some of the stuff that I've read. I am very curious about his writing style and his ability to create like a sense of dread. So I will definitely try him out. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to buy his books. Maybe I'll just try and find them secondhand or something. A popular or beloved character that you don't like. So this one is probably going to be quite controversial. I don't really like Kelsier from the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. Kelsier is pretty problematic. I don't like what he does at the end of book 1, I think it is. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it. But I think Kelsier is a little bit of a sociopath, and I like his whole thing about like fighting against classism and fighting against the man and all of that stuff, but his way of going about it I don't really like, and I don't necessarily agree with all the time. A popular author that you can't seem to get into. It's not even that I can't seem to get into this author, I just don't like this author's writing, and that is Jennifer L. Armentrout. She writes kind of new adult romantic fantasy. Her series, the From Blood and Ash series, had so much promise. I don't know what happened. It's just, again, I think it's also partly that I'm just not really into, not fantasy romance, because I still enjoy a good fantasy romance now and then, but I just find them so repetitive. They're cookie cutter versions of each other, and we need an author who can do fantasy romance differently. It's just you're reading the same stuff all the time, and like she takes a lot of inspiration from SJM, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like I'm reading the same stuff and it's boring. A popular book trope that you're tired of seeing, there's two. One is the classical kind of miscommunication trope. I really hate seeing that in adult fantasy in particular. There's no excuse. You're an adult, grow up and speak. Like, I hate it when that is used as a way to move the plot forward or to hold the plot back. I really hate it. It's just such a big gripe of mine. In YA, it's a little bit more understandable because there's angst, they're a little bit immature, and, you know, communication when you're younger is a little bit harder. But like, as adults, you know, you have characters who are more mature. It's like, come on, like, get your act together. The second thing I really hate is the danger makes me horny trope. I don't understand it. It's not fun. It's not sexy. Why? Just stop. Obviously, you see that a lot in like fantasy romance, but it's just weird. I just don't get it. A popular series that you have no interest in reading, Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I've heard a lot of pretty negative stuff about his writing. I don't have any intention of reading Nevernight ever, and which is a shame because I've heard some good things about it as well, but I feel like the negatives outrule the positives. I'm still debating whether I'm going to read Empire of the Vampire because a lot of my friends who I rate have read that and really raved about it. So I'm like conflicted, but we'll see. What movie or TV show adaptation do you prefer more than the book? The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. The book is pretty average in my opinion. The show is absolutely phenomenal. That was the last question. Let me know if my unpopular opinions are actually all that unpopular. I feel like some of the early ones are maybe not that unpopular, but I think my Kelsier one is probably quite unpopular. Please don't hate me, but I don't know, there's just something about him, it just rubs me the wrong way. But anyway, let's take it down below. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will speak to you soon. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.